far corner of Triangle Alley, below the whooshing sound of a sparkling TR-3B, at the edge of a dark forest where lumbering beasts dwell. It's Beyond the Beyond with Tanner Rush.
Beyond the Beyond, the Gulf Breeze UFO photos. When I was a kid, my friend had a series of books called Time Life Mysteries of the Unknown. These were the types of books advertised on TV, where you would purchase the set and they would send you one book a month, each one on a different subject having to do with the paranormal. One month would be ghosts, the next would be psychic phenomenon, and so on, and so on. The one we practically wore out was simply titled UFOs. In the pages of this book were stories and pictures of the most famous documented UFO cases up until around, say, 1991, when the book came out. I'm not sure if this is where I first saw the Gulf Breeze UFO sightings, but I'm pretty sure this was it. One evening in November 1987, Ed Walters had a peculiar encounter in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Ed, a building contractor, reported seeing several strange lights outside of his home, which he eventually took photographs of. They appeared to be disc-like and metallic and hovered outside his home, silently. As he took the photos with his Polaroid camera, he was struck with a blue beam that paralyzed him and lifted him off the ground. He heard a soft voice in his mind say, "Calm down, stop it." The voice seemed to change from male to female, and then the light went out and he dropped to the ground. There were no witnesses, but he did have photos. On November 17, 1987, he sent his pictures to a local paper, the Sentinel, under the alias of Mr. X, and on November 19th, the Sentinel ran his story. The pictures soon circulated widely, bringing a great deal of attention to the area, and Ed wasn't the only one to see strange lights in the sky. A city council member claimed he saw a hovering orange light above the highway. A doctor, a chemical engineer, and his wife did too. In fact, over 100 witnesses all backed Ed's unusual claims. On November 20th, Ed began to hear a hum in his ear. He walked outside to see a craft in the sky and shouted at it to leave him alone. In response, he heard another voice say, "Be calm, step forward." As he snapped more photos, he seemed to hear a conversation above the ship with a woman saying not to expose them and not to be afraid. That this was only a series of tests being conducted and nothing more. The voice then told Ed, "We will come for you." Another person came forward and said he saw a UFO being chased by two jets. What in the world was going on in Gulf Breeze? A month later, Ed would have a close encounter with a boxy-looking gray alien outside of his residence in the middle of the night. Attempting to confront it, he was once again struck with a blue beam that paralyzed him. Another blue beam shot to the ground and seemed to pick up the alien, and the craft disappeared into the night sky. On December 17th, Ed and his wife were awakened in the middle of the night to find three dark figures standing at the foot of their bed. As Ed got up to attack them, he was hit with a sudden sharp pain in his head. The creatures vanished, and Ed was released from the intense pain. As he ran outside with his gun, he was able to snap another picture of a craft hovering in the distance. The Sentinel began to receive more photographs from someone who described themselves as Believer Bill. The photos were placed next to Ed's in the next issue of the paper, and the craft shown in them appeared to be identical. On January 12, 1988, Ed was working on a construction site when a UFO struck him with a white light from above. Slowly and painfully, he was able to get hold of his Polaroid photo and was able to take what is now considered to be the most famous of his photos. A voice again instructed Ed to come forward, and while doing so, shot 5 blue beams down onto the street. With each beam, a small creature appeared in the road. Each one held a glowing silver rod. Ed was able to start his truck and leave rapidly. On February 10th, MUFON, which is the Mutual UFO Network, gave Ed a Nimzio 3D camera, a fixed focus camera with an automatic exposure system that would be extremely hard to tamper with because of an internal locking mechanism. This would make it next to impossible to use any type of double exposure technique, something that many had accused Ed of after looking at his photos. On February 26, Ed used the camera provided by MUFON to take pictures of a UFO. These pictures were revealed in public, but the features of the supposed mothership were hard to make out. On May 1st, 1988, Ed went down to the beach and took 2 more photos. These would be the last photos he would take of UFOs. Many experts pored over these photographs. Dr. Bruce Maccabee, a physicist, supported the authenticity of Ed Walters' photographs and claimed they were genuine. Now, he's a physicist and not a photography expert. I'm reminded somewhat of this well-known clip.
If you can communicate this product, you can make money off the product. Because look at Gaga. She's the creative director of Polaroid. I like some of the Gaga songs. What the fuck does she know about cameras?
Another supporter was Don Berliner, a self-proclaimed ufologist, who thought there was some validity to the sightings and photographs, as did a researcher named Bill Monroe, although he later became more skeptical of them. A setback for Ed's story happened when a man living in his previous home supposedly found a model of a UFO in the attic after living there for a few months. The model, made with plastic foam plates and drafting paper, appeared to closely resemble the various UFOs that were present in the earlier photographs Ed took. Ed, of course, denied that the model belonged to him, suggesting that it may have been planted by the owner, or maybe by some government agency trying to discredit him. "If I were trying to pull a hoax," he told the Tampa Bay Times, "and I'm not, then it would have been stupid to leave it there." It is also worth noting that Ed Walters served 18 months in prison in the late 1960s for fraud, and that he made quite a bit of money from his UFO photographs, including a $200,000 advance for a book he wrote on the subject from publisher William Morrow and Company. There are also the stories of Ed hoaxing ghost photos for his children using a double exposure technique. Interestingly enough, I was able to get Ed's email through a contact in the community, and the exchange is as follows. "Hello, I am trying to reach out to Ed Walters. I write a paranormal column for Eastern Sierra Now in California and would like to ask him some questions about an article I'm writing. Please get back to me at your earliest convenience. Here is a sample of my work." I heard back. "Mr. Rush, I do know who Ed Walters is, but I'm not sure how I can help you. I haven't spoken to him in years, but I do wish you good luck on your research." A response as short and sweet as a UFO flap in Northwest Florida. My thinking is that there was indeed a UFO flap in Gulf Breeze, Florida in 1988. There are dozens of witnesses who have come forward to tell their stories. Perhaps it was some military craft being tested at the time. Perhaps it was a legitimate alien craft. I don't know. I wasn't there. But maybe Ed Walters saw this as a way to make money. Maybe he double-exposed photos using models he made and sold his photos and stories to various outlets over the course of several years, including to a book publisher who eventually made him a large sum of money. There was, according to some sources, a $450,000 deal in the works with ABC for a television miniseries deal. If only Ed would clarify some of this mess. What do you think of the Gulf Breeze photos? Message me at Beyond the Beyond 1 on Instagram.